We continue our focus on bullying at schools by looking at the role of parents, teachers and society in general in dealing with the scourge. Our reporters Silindelo, Masikane and Nobesuthu Hejana are in Johannesburg and Cape Town. Let's chat to them now. And Silindelo Masikane is at the head offices of education in Gauteng. And Sli, a very good morning to you. And I suppose yet again, we see this incident coming to the fore. And let's just talk a little bit about just, for victims speaking up. I mean, it's obviously a very difficult thing to talk about. Those of us who are older sometimes find it easier, but for young kids, there's so much that goes through their minds. You've spoken to some pupils who have been on the other side of this. What do they have to say?
I think it takes a lot of bravery, Yuveka, to come out and admit that you've been bullied, but that you've overcome it, and speaking to some of these young people who were brave enough to speak to me, there's certainly a sentiment that one certainly must speak up and get the attention of not only authorities, but those close to you, in order for them to be able to assist you to get through such a difficult phase. But let's just take a listen to what one victim and a survivor, I like to call them survivors of bullying, had to say to me.
My name is Bonolo Mabena, and I too was a victim of bullying. It started in grade 1, and because I was the youngest in class, I couldn't stand up for myself. But my granny took note of my change in behavior and how I stopped wanting to go to school. And one day she decided she was just going to spy on me, and she saw everything play out. That day, she stood up for me. Fast forward years later, and new school, new area, knew nobody, and I was bullied then, and this time around by boys. Because of the gender, I feared standing up for myself, and my father took note of my change in behavior once again, and he stood up for me. Parents, if I could advise you based on my experience, pay attention to children's behavior. If they change in any way from being this happy, bubbly person, ask, find out what is going on, because the bullying that I went through led to a point where I wanted to take my life. But because of the support system that I had, I found reason to live.
Well, Sli, this is not the first or the last case of bullying or one of those that actually ends in tragedy. And we know this happened in Limpopo, but you are, here in Gauteng, it happens every day as well. So what's the Provincial Education Department doing now that this has come to the fore again? What is it doing to make sure that we don't see tragedies like this happen again, where a child is actually taking her life or takes her life or his life because of what's happening on the playground or outside the gates?
Well, Rebecca, I'm joined by the Gauteng Education Department spokesperson, Steve Mabona, just to give us a sense of the latest statement that they released just yesterday, where there was another incident in Gauteng in terms of a violent incident in schools, which we are now seeing that are being recorded and going viral on social media. Steve Mabona, thank you so much for your time. The statement says that the department notes a spike in these violent incidents. What is the department doing about it?
Well, we call upon parents to work with us. We are finalizing election of our new SGBs. We will be taking them through the process of training on how to manage disciplinary matters. But we are saying participation of parents, making sure that learners are disciplined from home. It will play a major role. I mean, we are not saying all these incidents that are coming, they are coming from social media. No. There are incidents that are reported at school level, which schools are taking, immediate action. Like if it's a serious matter, they suspend immediately and then call upon parents to come at the school, facilitate a process of a disciplinary hearing. But to a certain extent, you'll end up, dismissing learners from one school to the other, but the challenge is for you to admit them at the next school, because the next school might say, no, you can't bring an ill-disciplined child here. But we are saying if we work together and make sure that parents play a major role in assisting to instill the discipline, it will come a long way, because at school level we have an educator that is linked to the school, learners can go, to the educator and complain before waiting for an issue to get out of hand. And we have a child line. We are partnering with them. That number is 116. It's quite an easy number now. Learners can then call if they feel that probably they're not comfortable at the school level. If we have those, we will then probably manage to deal with them while they are still early, before even they go to a level of fighting. Because it starts somewhere, by someone saying something, and you can see that probably might end up being a fight or a violence, or end up in stabbing, quite a serious one, which will end up as calling the police. So we need to work together on this one.
All right, thank you so much, Steve. Yuveka, I am at the head offices, like you stated, and I'm going to ask Mukhumuti to just walk with me. We're actually at the head offices of where the psychosocial unit for the Gauteng Education Department is based. And you would have noticed in many of the statements that are released by the Education Department when it comes to violent incidents that they will call upon this particular unit to intervene. I'm joined by the head of the psychosocial unit, Mr. Mayer. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Just to give us a sense of what your unit does and how it assists the Education Department in dealing with violent incidents as well as incidents of bullying.
Yeah, good morning and thank you. Yeah, as a psychosocial unit, what we do is we do support. We're part of the broader support program where any learner impacted by violence or trauma or any other method that would need psychosocial support, we do respond to that. Our role is much broader. We do preventative programs, advocacy, and so on, training around those methods that would that will enable a safe environment within schools from a psychosocial perspective.
Anthony, could you just take us through some of the posters that we're seeing on your walls in terms of how they assist the unit as well as schools?
Yes, if you look at this one, for instance, this is exactly the issue we're talking about, bullying and victimization, how that actually works. This is a poster that each school have. It's an aid teachers can use. It's on the wall to explain the different kinds of bullying and steps to be dealing with that bullying and so on. This one is more particularly focused on your secondary schools, and it is an aid both, as I said, it's something that speaks for itself, but teachers and learners themselves use it to actually help deal with yeah.
And then we have a school safety non-negotiables poster that I see here as well. How does this assist?
If we look at the incidences that's so topical now, it's because some very basic things might not have been adhered to. So here is a list, again, this post is in all schools, of the school safety non-negotiables. The very basic measures that must be in place in order for a school to be safe.
And lastly, Anthony, I see you're holding a book here with you. I know it's something that you're going to be distributing to some of the district officers. How is it going to assist? I know it's been written by a parent who had an issue with bullying, as well as maybe lastly take us through some of the statistics that we know thus far in terms of incidents in our Gauteng schools.
Yeah, to start off with, remember, dealing with bullying is everyone's business, and this was a parent who made it a business. In her school, she started assisting the school to intervene. It turned into a program which she used among a number of schools. And she actually approached the department and said, now my child is gone, what do we do? He said, why don't you write a book? So she actually wrote a book, and this is a book that is good practice that's in our district offices now, waiting to be mediated with schools, each one school, to also assist in terms of how to bully-proof or address bullying within schools. With regard to stats, we know bullying worldwide in all institutions is a problem in as far as education. The way we keep track of it is, of course, learners who do misconduct themselves and go through the process of disciplinaries, and which usually leads to suspension and possible expulsion. So we keep track of that. But we also have a partnership with Childline, for instance, where Childline is tracking particularly for us the calls by children, from parents, from communities, around a whole range of psychosocial issues. But we are able to track on a monthly basis and see the rise and fall within psychosocial issues, including bullying, whether it's a trend that's going up or not.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayers. All right, Yuveka, that is an in-depth look at the psychosocial unit here in Gauteng that is dealing with the issue of violent incidents as well as incidents of bullying in the schools. All right, Silindelo, Masikane, thanks so much. Well, let's head on over now. Let's take the discussion to the Western Cape. That's where we find Nobesuthu, Hejana. Nobesuthu, good morning to you. And of course, everybody in a situation like this looks at the role of everybody who is involved in a child's life. The parents, of course, being the most pivotal in this. You are speaking this morning, we understand, to the parent of somebody who was bullied.
Well, certainly, Yuveka. Earlier on, we did hear from Sydney Bailey, who was telling us that at times she would take a lunchbox and go to the bathroom, and that's where she felt safe from her bullies. But just what role do parents play in ensuring that they do communicate these issues to the school? Well, we find out from Mr. Terence Bailey, the father of Sydney. Mr. Bailey, what sort of signs did you notice about Sydney that she was being bullied at school?
Well, I was none the wiser. We didn't know she was being bullied in a primary school. And it's only in high school where she was bullied that there was a video that went viral, and we got a shock of our life. We didn't know she was being bullied. Watching that video, I was shocked. We immediately contacted the school. They said that they'd like to see us, and they didn't condone it at all. And immediately I felt helpless. I felt I was ill-prepared to actually deal with this. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know how to approach it. Immediately we become angry, and you say you're going to the school and you're going to strangle the person. But you know, when I met the girl, I looked at her and I thought, but this is just another child. And she could be my daughter. She looked just like any other kid. But then we set up a meeting also with her parents, and the parents live a couple of blocks down the road here, and we were shocked to see that these parents were just as ordinary as we were. We kiss our kids goodbye in the morning and they go to school, and we think everything's fine and we don't know. And that parents were also felt ill-prepared how to deal with it. They were also in shock, and yeah, it's just so sad, you know.
Yeah. And what impact did it have on her self-esteem? Because we understand that she later on became a model.
Yeah, so I thought initially that being a model, you have to be confident, and she was confident as a model. But as a person, she had a very low self-esteem, and it took a while for her to build up the confidence. And up until today, she's still dealing with the problem of bullying. It's only now that she started becoming more confident. But she took it on herself that she had to overachieve as a performer, singer, songwriter, actress, and an international model, because she had to prove to the world that she was better than what the children were telling her. Yeah.
And what advice do you have for parents and schools on how they can sort of like talk to their children at home to let them know that bullying the other person is not okay, and also to the children who are being bullied, they need to speak up?
Yeah, it's so sad. Parents, we're not prepared to deal with a situation like this. Look for the tell signs, the grades, your child going to the room to go and eat, not wanting to socialize, drinking, acting out. But when you do ask your child, how are you, listen to what they're not telling you. Don't just go through the paces of, oh, how was your day, and you're not really listening. try to really listen and engage your child. To the children that are being bullied, tell someone if you feel ashamed that you don't want to speak to your parents, because most of the time the child feels ashamed. Talk to someone else, another adult that you feel more secure or safer to talk to. But don't leave it there. The sooner you talk up, the sooner the bullying will stop. And when you feel helpless, that there's no hope for you, but just talking out, everybody will run to your aid to assist you. Because no one condones bullying. Not even the bully's parents condones it. And it's a sorry state of affairs that we find ourselves in. But, yeah, that's my advice.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Bailey. Well, Yuveka, parents are asked to pay attention to their children, and also children are asked to speak out if they are being bullied.